Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tic Tac Taiko. Matsuri Taiko is a very popular song that you find in North American taiko groups. This week, I'm taking the G or bass beat of that song and using it as a tool to help make you a better musician. Come on. Matsuri Taiko, or sometimes Matsuri Daiko, is a very popular piece played in North America. I would argue it's probably the most popular song that taiko groups play here. I can't speak outside of the continent, but I know I have seen this piece in different versions from coast to coast in North America. Although every group may have its own flavor of Matsuri Daiko, I find that there are two things that I see in every single one of them. One is that there are multiple soloists, and two, that there is a very common G or bass beat. One bass beat I hear a lot is don, tsuku, don, don. And the other is don, 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 don. It's not to say there aren't other patterns that are similar to those, but every time I hear Matsuri Taiko in North America, it's one of those two G. And before I get into the meat or protein of this week's drill, hit the thumbs up button, let me know you liked it, hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, leave me messages or comments, let me know what you like, what you didn't, what you want more of, engage with me and I'll make this channel better for you. I'm going to focus on the first of those two G to demonstrate this week's drill. If you break that pattern down beat by beat, you've got don, tsuku, don, don. Loud, soft, soft, loud, loud. You've got 3 loud notes and 2 quiet notes that hit on the second beat. Now, what if we shift the downbeat from the first to the second note and we start on the tsuku? How would that sound? For you taiko players out there, how many of you had trouble keeping it where the downbeat was on the second note and you started to shift back to the original pattern which had the first note as the downbeat? Because that's pretty common, especially if you're really familiar with Matsuri Taiko. It's a pattern your brain wants to come back to. In that struggle is where there's growth. I have a couple of tips for you that will help you keep the downbeat where you want it. The first tip is something that regular viewers have heard me say time and time again. You really want to feel the downbeat in your body. So in this case, the 1 causes my body to drop. It's cementing where the downbeat is. So in this case, tsuku, don, 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 tsuku, don, 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 tsuku, don, don, don. The second thing you can do is maybe deviate from the pattern a little bit. Add a fill at the end of every 4 or every 8, just to emphasize to your brain, no, this pattern now ends here, not here. Moving on, we're going to shift the downbeat from the second note to the third note, another don. It's going to sound like this. I find this version a lot easier to hang on to than some of the others, and it's because of basic music theory. When you have a strong downbeat on the 1, like you normally would, you have a weak downbeat on the 3. Even if you're not really aware of it, it's there. So now that we're shifting the main downbeat to the 3, it's not that big of a diversion from what we normally do. But if you do find yourself struggling and shifting back towards the original downbeat, don't forget the tips I mentioned with the last version. And that leaves us with 1 space left for the downbeat on the 4th note. This is the 3rd don in the series and the last note in the pattern. Of the 4 of these versions, this one is my favorite, even more than the original. It's got a very fun syncopated feel to it. And as you can see, I did a little bit of a fill at the end to further reinforce how the pattern should end, so my brain didn't want to shift the downbeat back to the first note. So this week's drill is not that difficult. It's not meant to be, but you can make it more difficult. You can make it a lot more difficult. So far, we've been playing with the downbeats that land where the notes already are. But what happens if we put a downbeat in between, say, the first and second notes of the pattern? We shift half a beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1. 1, 1. 1. Even for me, if I got much faster than that, it would be really hard not to shift. Did it shift for you? Funny thing about this week's drill, it actually has nothing to do with Matsuri Taiko. I'm simply using the G of a very common song to demonstrate a point. For example, I can use a line that you will very often hear in Matsuri Taiko arrangements, and it goes don, 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 kara, ka, ka. So if we apply the lesson we learned earlier to the pattern here, we have don, 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 kara, ka, ka to start. We shift the downbeat over, we get don, don, kara, ka, ka, don, 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 kara, ka, ka, don. Shift it again, don, kara, ka, ka, don, 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 kara, ka, ka, don, don. Shift it one more time, we get kara, ka, ka, don, 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 kara, ka, ka, don, don, don. And you can do this with any pattern. Obviously, it doesn't have to be involved or connected with Matsuri in any way. So yeah, this week's lesson isn't groundbreaking or mind-blowing, and it's not supposed to be. It's to show you that you can take something you are already familiar with so that you don't have to learn a new pattern and get something out of it more than just the sequence that you already know. If you are new to taiko composition or interested in composing your own piece, this is an extremely useful tool to have. You take patterns you already know, shift the downbeat, and you don't necessarily want to use a shifted pattern, but that might inspire you to something else, which might inspire you to something else. And soon you have something that's completely new, completely original that you created on your own. Another really good use for this is if you are crafting a solo. I know a lot of, especially newer players, will play lines of a song in a solo, and that's okay. But if you can take a song pattern and you shift the downbeat and you put that into your solo, not only will it fit, it often sounds very playful or very clever because it's recognizable as a pattern from the song, but you've changed it up a bit. It's a nice, sort of a safe and easy way to start experimenting when you're not super comfortable soloing. And also, this is really good mental musical exercise for your brain, especially when you start playing with things like upbeats. You start really working what your brain is familiar with and where it wants to go versus where you're trying to make it go. It's been very fun using Matsuri, which is sort of a common foundation, if you will, to serve as a launch pad to help present a drill like this. I'm planning to use Matsuri at least once, maybe a couple more times in this mini Matsuri series I have. And there you have the first drill in the mini Matsuri series. Until next time, keep on practicing and be well.